My name is Lucy Maingi, Head of SME Engagement at Invest in Africa. Welcome to today's virtual masterclass series, one of a kind edition, where we shall be discussing about different approaches for growth, specifically for Turkana entrepreneurs during and post COVID-19. Therefore, for the interest of time and without much further ado, allow me to welcome the moderator of the day. She's Ms. Wangeshi Muriuki, who will give us some welcoming remarks and set the context for the conversation. So kindly over to you, Wangeshi.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to have all of you here, and a great and unique masterclass, as Lucy has mentioned. So this is really great, and because we have a very good speaker, would like to just begin by a very brief introduction of Invest in Africa, who we are, what we are doing. So Invest in Africa is a non-profit, Pan-African organization that is working to support small and medium enterprises, particularly MSMEs, to develop them, to grow their capacity in order to drive job creation in Africa, and particularly in Kenya. We're working with a vision of prospering African economies, and with a very ambitious target of creating 250,000 new jobs for MSMEs and connecting them to $1 billion worth of contracts. So our work is focused on ensuring that, first of all, we develop SMEs in a way that is sustainable so that they can be able to win these contracts. We are keen on ensuring that small businesses are competitive in contracts and jobs. So how do we deliver on this work? So first of all is that we partner with large organizations, private sector organizations. So we work with multinationals, we work with corporates, in order to have them providing opportunities for MSMEs. So they guarantee opportunities, or they ring-fence opportunities for MSMEs who supply but lack the limited access to it. And then we register SMEs on our biashara.now platform to make sure that these businesses are ready and are compliant, so that they can be able to supply to our anchor partners who buy from SMEs. The second thing that we do is that we also build the capacity of SMEs. So we work to develop them so that they can to bridge their gaps, or to transfer knowledge for them to gain technical business skills that are relevant, and so that they can competitively deliver to these contracts, and also make sure that they make money, so they are able to deliver at competitive prices. And then thirdly is that we partner with banks, financial institutions, impact investors, DFIs, to be able to provide financing lines or guaranteed lines to these SMEs to ensure that they scale sufficiently and be able to deliver to the contracts. So our vision to generate SMEs to win 1 billion contracts is not just a statement. We are actually doing it, and we drive this through our digital platform, biashara.now. So we are very happy that when we started this work, we reached out to MSMEs in Turkana. So we have them registered on our platform. They are part of the Biashara network. I think close to 200 businesses been involved in our business exchange forums. We have undertaken advocacy activities for Turkana. So someone might be wondering, why Turkana? We are very much we are a strong partner of Turkana County, and Turkana SMEs are part of our ecosystem, and our work is focusing on those SDGs. As you see there, we are working to drive sustainable economic development by empowering enterprises. So that is who we are as Invest in Africa. And I'll just be very quickly talking to you about this program that we are currently running across African countries, in Kenya, Ghana, and in Senegal. It's called the SME COVID-19 Survival Program that is being delivered in partnership with the Mastercard Foundation. And this is our first county engagement. We are sensitizing organizations, MSMEs, the chamber, the incubators, all the ecosystem actors within Turkana to partner with us on how we can deliver this program and reach businesses or the MSMEs that are in Turkana, including those in those where there are so many interventions. So this is a kit that we are delivering, and it has 4 or 5 components to it. One is the masterclass. We're organizing this, and we have a guest who we partner with different collaborators to provide classes that are tailored to the needs that are specific to businesses, and with a focus on enhancing them to become more resilient and build back better. The second component is coaching. We are ensuring that MSMEs are supported to develop and implement practical personalized plans. We also arrange peer where we have circles of mentorship where as an MSME you can be placed to learn together and build and focus on the learning to grow your business. And the fourth component is access to finance. This is so crucial and critical for us. We know that MSMEs have very, very challenging times at the moment, and accessing finance is hard. So we are running a program under this survival program to ensure that you're ready to be able to target investment or to get finance, with a bank, or access credit facilities to help you to be able to recover your business. And finally, we run Knowledge Academy on biashara.now, and this is a resource center that is interactive, where you as a business can access best practice guides, toolkits, resources. You may be sitting there and you're wondering, where do I start? How do I manage the business? What should I be looking into? So we have packaged a very good resource for you as a business, so that you can be able to access and for those who are in Turkana, maybe you're too far, you're wondering, how do I get this? I'm not on Biashara. Remember that our team will be ready and will stand by to show you how you can join our platform, which is free. Get in touch with Lucy. We'll be sharing a feedback form, and we'll show you exactly how you can access and how we can make this as easy as possible. So our theme is navigating the pandemic environment. And this morning, we will be looking at approaches for growth. For you as a business in Turkana, what are the approaches? What are the options during and post COVID? So we've packaged this masterclass specifically for you, so that we can discuss and understand what are the opportunities for businesses in Turkana. And then secondly, what are the options that you can pursue at this particular time? We are also aware that there are businesses that have shut. There are businesses that have to rethink. Some have to repurpose. Others are pivoting. So what are those options, and how can we come together? Remember that the masterclass is just one part of survival program. I've talked about coaching, there's a toolkit, there's an investor readiness program, there's mentorship. And so let's start the journey. Let us bring our ideas on board. Let's have a conversation. And this morning, my task is to bring to you our facilitator of the day, who is Victor Gola. He is the managing director of VIFA Consult. So he's an MD, but he's not just an MD. Besides that, Victor is very passionate about the African entrepreneur, and he's worked with over 500 organizations in more than 5 African countries in East and South Africa. So he's very, very experienced. We choose our facilitators very carefully because we want to ensure that they're able to connect with our audiences who are the MSMEs. Victor is also a policy advisor, as you can see from his profile. He's an advocate of SMEs, and he's also an ecosystem strategist. He's a publisher. He writes on Business Daily. For those of us who are keen on Business Daily and on Standard, and he's also been regularly featured on international media and press. Giving interviews. He's a we are very happy to be a resource, a very experienced person like Victor. We are bringing to you Victor all the way from Nairobi, MSMEs this morning, to engage and to learn from him. So we want to welcome Victor to take it up from here and to also invite you, our distinguished guests, and acknowledge that you put in time here to engage with us and to also engage with Victor. So let's enjoy the webinar. Let us learn. And just before Victor comes in, I'd like to recognize our partner and our host, who is the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce, Turkana Business Chapter. They've been very, very supportive, and later on we'll be inviting them to give some remarks as we progress. So we just want to acknowledge and recognize their role, and as well as the Turkana County government, whom we've walked the journey with in supporting businesses and the ecosystem in Turkana. So without further ado, we're starting really. I think, Victor, your time is pressed, but over to you to take it up from here. And karibuni sana, and thank you, Victor.
Asante sana Wangechi, the Invest in Africa team, and all the guests who have taken their time to be with us and to discuss issues around SME and resilience. Yeah. As has been rightly introduced, my name is Victor Otieno. I'm the managing director of Viva Consult, and I breathe and live SMEs each and every day. Yeah. So basically, the Corona pandemic has caught most of us, or if not all of us, affected. So no one, if you are to ask someone, about their 2020 in January, very few would have told you that Corona was part of their plans. So a lot of us, both government and private sector people, are just trying to, get by. So there is no single entity or no single institution that has all the answers, but it's a question of, can we be able to put our ears on the ground and learn from each other? So I think that's probably why we are seeing a lot of organization putting a lot of webinars and putting a lot of content out there, just to be able to add to the pot of knowledge that is out there and enable SMEs to survive. That's number one. Number two is government has given almost all governments have given some sort of package that is supposed to help private sector businesses. And of course, even in Kenya, we are still grappling with it in terms of the veracity or the effectiveness of these packages. So as I said, as I was introducing, there is no single entity that has all the solutions, and it's just good to continue having conversations and continue learning from each other. So even as I'm taking you through this process, it's not 100% that this is the silver bullet for all your problems, but it's just based on our own studies, our own interactions with SMEs, that we are saying, okay, now these are possible solutions that you can explore and see if it works, if they work for you. So yeah, so basically the whole objective of this session, as Wangechi mentioned, is to try to see how or possible solutions around trying to navigate the challenge that is presented to us through COVID-19. And the way I structured this session is to look at, number one, is to look at possible opportunities that as an entrepreneur or as an SME you can be able to take up. And this is basically focusing on either businesses that have closed down or businesses that are still there and are really struggling. So looking at opportunities might give you an opportunity to divest and look for other opportunities that are out there without actually having to close your business. The second area that we would look at is for those businesses that are struggling and they feel that they have a strong business model, and it's only that the interruption of COVID that is really affecting their business. Then we have strategic planning options that you can be able to use in your business and ride out through the virus. Like I said, I'm not giving a silver bullet. It's not everything. It's just an attempt towards giving a solution. So for those of you maybe who might not be, because again, the people who are on this call, I'm assuming not everyone runs an SME. We have different stakeholders. So maybe just to put into context in terms of why SMEs, why MSMEs. So according to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, SMEs constitute over 98% of all businesses. They contribute 33% to the Kenya's GDP and employ over 30% of the population. So again, if you look at the 2019 KNBS 2019 economic survey of all jobs created in Kenya in 2019, 83% of all those jobs were created within the MSME sector. So this is a very, very important sector that deserves support and deserves deserves the full attention from all possible stakeholders. Again, to put context is if you look at again Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, it is the body that is mandated to gather data that informs policy in Kenya at least. So if you look at their 2016 MSME report, the distribution of SMEs was wholesale, retail, motor vehicle repair, accommodation, and food services. So it's always good to look at it in terms of, yes, these SMEs contribute to the GDP, but you also need to ask yourself which sectors within SMEs contribute much to the country's GDP. So, and I put this out there also as an indicator, especially if you're in business and you maybe are struggling, and you're asking yourself, which sectors can I be able to invest in? So looking at the subsector distribution and vis-a-vis their contribution to GDP will help you to know which sectors to invest in moving forward. So the highest sectors that contribute to GDP, we have manufacturing, wholesale and retail, transport, storage, and education. And this is data that you can actually get from Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. If you notice, a lot of SMEs are within the wholesale retail sector, which has been greatly affected by COVID-19 due to challenges in terms of supply chain, especially for SMEs that are importing goods from China and Asia for that matter. So in terms of challenges, of course, these challenges can be broken down per county and per country, because different SMEs in different sectors and different sizes of SMEs face different challenges. But what I wanted us to just reflect on is the generic challenges that SMEs face. So in as much as SMEs contribute highly to the economy of the country, they still face challenges, and data from KNBS still indicates that SMEs are dying at a rate of 75% within the first 3 years. And coming to this year, CBK governor in one of his speeches indicated that this death rate is going to skyrocket to around 95%, at least theoretically by August or September. So basically, it's just an analogy that the mortality rate of SMEs is going up. So one of the challenges that some of the challenges that SMEs have traditionally struggle with is access to finance, and we've seen it's one of those pillars that Invest in Africa has focused on, which is great. We have issues around access to markets, lack of information, managing an entrepreneur starting a business but lacks the capacity to grow the business in a manner that can be sustained, and we have issues around access to technology. Of course, if you are to, I think Ken CCI did a survey around the same, and it's more granular in the sense that there are some certain key challenges that SMEs within Turkana region are facing. So this is not in any way to get rid of that, but it's just to give you context in terms of just understanding the challenges that SMEs face. So in terms of business opportunities, we have market intelligence and business budget policy statement. And the reason why I put market intelligence is, if you look based on our interactions with a lot of SMEs in the country, is a lot of SMEs just start business. The very few people take stock in terms of doing business plans, doing business models, simulating their businesses to see which sectors, what kind of business they should start. So and this of course contributes to the high mortality rate, because we are not using data to make business decisions. So even as businesses are closing, what we did as a company was to try to identify sectors that can be able to withstand this current shock or any other future shocks that may come by. So what do I mean by market intelligence? So market intelligence basically is you going out and doing your homework, doing your research to figure out which sectors are most profitable, which sectors can I be able to invest in and be able to make a living out of the same. So of course, the challenge that we have in Kenya is a lot of biasharas are focused on buying to sell, which poses a huge problem, especially now during a pandemic such as this. Because if you are in the business of buying without any value addition and selling, what happens if your supplier maybe in China closes shop? What does that mean for your business? It means that your business would pretty much be closing. So one of the things that we are trying, we are encouraging entrepreneurs, biashara people and SMEs to do is to look for sectors that really can be able to have sustained growth, meaning that you can be able to be in that business for a long time. Yeah. So and one of the sectors that is highly neglected and is is still done at a rudimentary level or at a retail level is agriculture. So one of the sectors that we would encourage SMEs to explore is the agricultural value chain. So identifying which sectors in agriculture that can be profitable and investing in such, as well as manufacturing. So when you're doing, the question you ask yourself is, what am I looking for? So we gave 3 broad areas that you can be able to gauge to see if it's a lucrative or it's a profitable sector. One is looking at the significance and the significance of the market size, as well as the market being diversified. So there's this old, I don't know if it's old, but there's this saying that says you don't put all your eggs in one basket. So basically what you don't want to do is to enter into a market where maybe you have very few customers. So it means that if one customer pulls out, it means that basically your business is is kaput. So as we are looking for diversification sectors, you need to look for a market that is big enough, but as well, but a market that is also as diversified, meaning that you have many customers, that even if one customer was to pull out, it will not significantly affect your business. The second factor or area to consider is looking at the resiliency of your supply chain. And this we've learned very well from this pandemic, in the sense that a lot of us, especially, for example, we've worked with with SMEs in Nyamakima, in Nairobi, in River Road, where a lot of these entrepreneurs were getting electronics from China. So when the pandemic hit China first, most of them, if not, most of them ended up closing shop because they did not have an alternative to having an electric supplies. So of course, before they could get a plan B or plan C, business had already tanked for most of them. So you need to look for a business that has a diversified and many suppliers who can be able to offer the same supply, either the same quality or an alternative supply. The last option or the last factor is looking at a business where you can be able to create a sustained value proposition. So for just to use simple language, value proposition is basically a customer asking himself or herself, why should I buy this product from you? So you need to be able to get into a business where you can be able to create value that can be able to drive customers sustainably, not just for one day and they go. So be able to look for a product that is very, very unique. So what examples? It's one thing to say this is how to do it, but it's another to have real life examples. So I've given 3 broad areas in terms of sector. Number 1 is agriculture, which I mentioned, manufacturing and business process outsourcing. So if you look at data from Kentrade, and if you look at data from CBK, Kenya's top import is rice and wheat. Of course, we have cement, the clinker for cement, but just looking at rice, wheat. So it means that if Kenya is importing rice and wheat as a top import, it means that there is that local suppliers are not able to meet the demand of rice and wheat. So that poses an opportunity for an SME that would want to venture into that. Secondly, we've done a series around agriculture in terms of other sectors that traditionally are not as big as coffee and tea, but also that poses or offers an opportunity for SMEs to invest in. Number 1 is coconut, which is around a 30 billion USD global market. And the challenge that we have in Kenya is we always assume that coconut can be grown in the coast. Maybe just to blow your bubble, coconut can grow in Tharaka Nithi and can also grow in Homa Bay. So those are possible areas of growing coconut. And there are, of course, opportunities for a value addition within the coconut value chain. Another area is urban farming using hydroponic or aquaponics. Again, this is a cheap way of going into agriculture, and you don't have to spend too much money to move into that. Another area is manufacturing. This is you can go into manufacturing and focus on textile and apparel. Focusing on the AGOA agreement between Kenya, between African countries and the US. Right now, Kenya is negotiating a trade with the US, and maybe I'm sure some of the gains that are under AGOA will still be sustained. So investing in textile and apparel is still something worthwhile. We have investment in leather finished goods. And why I chose leather is because, again, it's a huge market. Kenya is not really tapping into it. We do very little value addition in terms of adding value to leather. I'll mention this again under the budget policy statement, where government is really trying to encourage investment in value addition within the leather value chain. So even as we go as we go through the pandemic, what we are seeing is a lot of corporates are shedding or retrenching employees, and most of them probably would be looking at business process outsourcing. So basically, firing your accountant and getting an accounting firm to do the same. Of course, this would be cheaper because they don't have to deal with leave days, they don't have to deal with people being sick, pay as you earn and the likes, and it's paid per project. So most corporates will be going towards that direction, and as an SME, that presents an opportunity for you. So that's the first area in terms of looking at business opportunities. I hope that that's clear. And again, because of time, we cannot be able to go deeper into those areas. But it's just to give you an indicator of what you need to do in terms of looking for an opportunity. So the second area that, as an SME, that you need to watch out for is looking at government action through the budget policy statement. So most of us know the budget day, which happens in the mid of the year, and the cabinet secretary of treasury would come and say, okay, now this is how government revenue, and these areas that they to invest their money. So, but what basically informs that budget is what is called the budget policy statement, which is always read around, which is presented to Parliament in around February. So basically, this is almost like a strategic plan, a strategic document, or a plan of intent of how we want the economy to grow. So what I did is I just I just took different highlights within the budget policy statement that are relevant for us or for you as an SME. So the first area that the budget policy statement indicated is the intent of government to set up special economic zones, very similar to the EPZ economic zone that we have in Kitengela in Nairobi. So what and within that, government is saying that they would want to the country to start investing in cotton production. So of course they have given incentives towards reviving the river Tex East Africa as a market for farmers who are engaged in cotton. There's also the push towards fish production and being involved in the blue economy. So that's an area that government is really looking at towards. But what was very interesting for me in that particular section is the tax breaks that government has given on various items to encourage their production. Number one is plastic recycling, where if you are to invest there as an SME, you will get a corporate tax rate of 15% in the first 5 years. So of course this is a departure from your traditional business that is being taxed at 25% based on the stimulus package that government put out. There's also the encouragement of local production or manufacture of sugar confectionery and chocolates, etc., by government lowering excess duty. There's also the increased export duty on rawhide, which basically presents an opportunity for an SME because we export 98% of our leather raw. So it means we are not able to capture more value in the market. And what is very interesting is, in Africa accounts for around a quarter of global leather production. So that's very significant. But the same Africa accounts for less than 4% of total leather products. So it means we are exporting a lot of raw leather products, and we are importing the same products that having received value addition from countries that don't even have or own animals. So that's a very sad state, and that again presents an opportunity for an SME to invest. The second area is around government's push towards digitization, building a digital infrastructure through, of course, they are talking about, we have the Konza Technopolis complex in Machakos. We also have government really trying to set up a very strong internet infrastructure across the country. So, and we've seen a lot of countries such as Tunisia, we've seen Senegal enact laws that support digitally enabled or founded businesses called startups. So again, global push is towards startups. So of course, as an SME, that again presents an opportunity for you to stay or invest in a startup business, or to try to enable to improve your business by incorporating technology, and of course enjoy the benefits of being called a startup. I've been involved in Kenya's startup act or startup bill proposal. So I'm sure that is that presents an opportunity again for SMEs to really invest in a different form of business and be able to sustain yourself in the long run. So of course, the idea of you being labeled a startup is to be able to get special recognition in terms of support, in terms of access to finance, in terms of support, in terms of intellectual property, etc., etc. And we have very good examples in Kenya. We have Twiga Foods, we have Sendi, and most of us are familiar with Uber. We are familiar with Airbnb. We are familiar with Facebook, etc., etc. So that's really also an avenue for SMEs to start divesting or to start investing in such business models that can be able to or can be able to offer you the next business growth trajectory. So there's also the government intention to set up to establish Nairobi as an international financial center, and basically this is trying to ensure that the country is trying to attract funding from different investors into the country. And this is basically this would basically be able to address the issue of access to finance. So of course, this presents an opportunity for you as an SME if you are philanthropic enough to offer yourself towards supporting other SMEs in terms of offering finance. There is also the interest rate cap repeal, which was proposed by government as a way of ensuring that there is financial inclusion for SMEs in the country. Of course, that the debate is still out there, especially now that we have COVID. We also have a very low insurance penetration of less than 3%. So of course, this if you take an example of Toy Market or Kikomba Market in Nairobi, we see fires taking place or ravaging people's business each and every year. And you can imagine now all these SMEs or these micro businesses have to start from scratch. So having an insurance policy of sorts would be able to alleviate their challenges. So insurance or micro insurance is also an opportunity that an SME can be able to take up to, especially to address targeting the informal sector business. So there's also the government effort towards improving the business environment in the country. And of course, this is encapsulated under the Ease of Doing Business Index, where Kenya is number 56. But more so, the question that I keep on asking myself: so how does that affect SMEs? So on one hand, government is really making some effort, at least in terms of making sure that the business environment is good. But on the other end, we are seeing a lack of information from the SME's point of view, in the sense that, for example, how many micro small businesses know about the credit guarantee scheme that government has rolled out? So very few SMEs is aware or are aware of this initiative. So it also presents an opportunity for SMEs, especially who are focused on capacity building and training, to be able to create awareness through training and the like. So again, that might be a business opportunity for other SMEs, such as FIFA Consult, where we also play in terms of building capacity and training. So that's those two areas now are what I looked at in terms of business opportunity. Again, if you have a question, you can ask. If not, then probably we can quickly go towards strategic planning options that SMEs have in light of the coronavirus pandemic. So I broke these plans into two, because again we have different businesses being affected differently. So the risk management aspect is for those businesses that have not closed or can be able to are surviving in one way or another. So the question is, how can I be able to manage the resources that I have to ensure that I don't close down? For those businesses that are almost closing down, we are looking at business consolidation as an option so that we don't completely shut down our business. So that's the reason why we broke these tools into two. So looking at risk management, basically risk management is how can I be able to not avoid risk, but how can I be able to manage risk in a manner that I can be able to survive. So we put this in I think 4 simple steps. Number one is, as soon as the crisis came, what we are trying, or even now, what we are encouraging SMEs. Number one is to take stock. By taking stock, basically is looking at what do I have in my hand, what resources do I have. Have I made sales either prior to COVID or during COVID that I can be able to tap into? Do I have I incurred expenses that I have not paid? So basically, that is what we've put it into what we are calling a profit and loss statement. So basically, looking at my sales, both cash sales and credit sales, and if you have credit sales, can you be able to talk to your debtors or the people who owe you money and have a payment plan of sorts? Because if you go today and say, okay, now you owe me money, pay me now, chances are you might not be able to get the whole amount of money that is owed. So can you be able to talk nicely to your debtors and see if possibly you can be able to get a payment plan of sorts? Why would you do this, you may ask? The question is, for any future decision that you may need to do as a business or to take as a business, you need money. So the first port of call is always to look at sales that you have made, or money that is out there that that you can be able to call at any time and use it for your business decisions, or to make any kind of business decision moving forward. So as you take stock, as you look at your debtors, the second area that you need to look at is looking at your assets. And this I've presented through what we call a balance sheet. So balance sheet is basically a statement of your financial position. So if you are to take all your assets, whether it's money in the bank, money in your house or in your office, if you have invested in T-bills, if you have stock, especially for wholesale and retailers, if you have prepaid expenses in terms of deposit with your landlord, do you have vehicles, do you have land? Can you be able to consolidate all this and get a value of sorts? For cash is easy because you can always go withdraw the money from your bank. For T-bills or government securities, for those who are privileged enough, you can always go and sell them. If you have stock or if you have inventory, the question you're asking yourself, if I was to sell this stock at a throwaway price, what we are calling forced value, how much can I be able to get? If you have prepaid expenses, can you be able to consolidate that? If you deposit from your landlord, can you be able to ask if you can be able to access these funds? And look at that vis-a-vis money that goes out in terms of customer deposit, salaries that need to be paid. And if you are to do a net of that, it will give you an actual cash position. So moving forward, as you're making decisions around the pandemic, you can know exactly how much money I can be able to access, whether it is to move offices or to set up a new business or to, do whatever decision you have to make. Taking stock puts you in a position where you can be able to, make solid decisions moving forward. So that's step number one, and risk management. Step number two is, now that we've taken stock of the amount of resource or the value of resource that you have, the question you should be asking yourself, among the critical facets of my business, and this again depends with one business from the next. Some business such as ourselves, which is a consultancy firm, our team is very important. So the question around scenario building is to try to simulate or ask yourself, what if this happened? What action can I be able to take? And the beauty about scenario building is you can be able to anticipate changes within the environment and try to put measures or action that can be able to alleviate the full brunt of, maybe, for example, a pandemic. So, for example, if you look at the first area, which is important for us as a consultancy company, is we are looking at our team or our staff. So, as the pandemic came, we had a risk of changing staff needs. Initially, we were all in one office in the Westlands. Now, with Corona, most of us now are working from home. So it means that something that was being taken for granted, such as office tea, for example, is not there. And to some, office tea is something that really motivated people to come to the office, in the sense that they did not have to use their salary to buy breakfast or to buy lunch or to buy whatever. So it's an incentive that was very important while staff were in the office. So the question is, how can we be able to sustain, to motivate our employees even as they are working from home? So we were able to anticipate that, and we were able to curate a list of motivators for our employees who are still working from the house. Of course, even in terms of rules of engagement, in terms of working, working changed, because now because people are working from home, we of course experience productivity challenge, which is a huge risk for us, because we have to be able to meet different partners and different customers' deadlines. So how can we be able to work around that, given that maybe, for example, we are under lockdown or there is restriction of movement? So if you can, the more you're able to anticipate some of these risks, the more you are able to ride the pandemic. For instance, if you're to look again at assets, again, this varies from one business to the next. What we view as assets for us is maybe, for example, the rent facility, that the place where we were paying our rent. So that was our facility, that was our asset. So we knew that when the corona pandemic hit, we knew that of course things are not going to remain the same. And what we did is we initially renegotiated our rent, but our rent downwards, which is unprecedented. Yeah, then possibly now we've come to an arrangement where where we are moving out of those premises and looking for a cheaper premises, and using the money that we are saving to pay our employees. So again, if looking at scenario building, it's you to identify critical areas within your business structure, and to try to figure out how can I be able to structure it in a manner or circumvent the negative effects of coronavirus. Maybe, for example, issues to do with restriction of movement, a number of people within a space. How does this affect my business, and how can I be able to circumvent the issue? One good example that I can share is a lot of people who maybe were in the fashion business. A lot of them changed the same asset and redeployed the assets to make face masks. The same happened for example, with different companies that are dealing with chemicals. So they just basically use the same assets that they had, and were using them to make sanitizers. So that's scenario building, looking at what I have and looking at the different situations that the country is facing and trying to figure a way of going around it. So that's the second area in terms of risk management. As I mentioned, number one is taking stock. Number two is trying to do scenario building, trying to simulate the different facets of your business and asking yourself what if, and taking appropriate action beforehand. The other area, especially for wholesale and retail businesses, was to look at supply chain. So a majority of us, especially who are either in manufacturing and wholesale and retail, were really affected or continue to be affected by the coronavirus due to disruption on issues around supply chain. I gave the example of wholesale electronic retailers in Nyamakima, in River Road, Nairobi, who ran out of stock because China was under lockdown, and Kenya had instituted a restriction of movement for a lot of for people and items, at least initially. So the question you ask that you should ask yourself is, how can I be able to build resilience for my supply chain? And basically the way you go through it is, number one is to identify the risk components within your supply chain. Once you identify, is to again conduct a what if analysis based on either best or worst case scenario, develop a plan around the same, and execute the plan. Of course, it sounds easier to talk about it compared to implementing it. So for example, in terms of risk, how can for example, how can I be able to identify how can I be able to identify risk? Sorry. So let me go back here and give basically an example. So assume that you are in the business of running a restaurant. So identifying your risk is basically your supply chain risk is looking at all the inputs that you need to be able to run a successful restaurant. So basically this means these are food stuff, this is water, this is electricity, these are your employees. And asking yourself, what if I miss out on beans? What if I miss out on maize? If there is a restriction of movement and I cannot be able to get it maybe from Transoia, the question you should be asking yourself is, what alternatives are there in terms of supply that I can be able to use in case my supplier from Transoia does not bring or does not deliver the same goods? Because it means that if you're not able to access maize or you're not be able to access beans, it means that then you cannot be able to cook, and then probably you might not be able to get sales. So that's basically what we are calling supply chain risk management, looking at the different components of your input and trying to get alternative means or alternative ways of being able to access the same input. Or if it's pricier, how can I be able to renegotiate and get it either at the same cost or just find a way of getting by. So there are different areas under risk. You can under the different components. For instance, there is the risk of not getting supplies. So the question is, how can I be able to get alternative supplies? Or can I be able to change my menu if, for example, you're in the restaurant business? There is also the risk of increased input cost because of the laws of supply and demand. Can I be able to renegotiate with my suppliers before things get out of hand? We have the issues around liquidity. Yes, the goods are the goods are there, the inputs are there, but I don't have cash. Are there alternatives in terms of accessing finance to be able to supplement my working capital? So again, I just identified this risk as an example of actions that you can be able to take. So even as you go back to your business, you should be able to identify those risks that are related to your supply chain and try to simulate different scenarios. Sorry, I'm trying to rush due to time. So the first step is looking at cost management. So one of the things that we see, especially when a business faces a crisis, whether it's coronavirus or any other, is to try to cut down on cost. So the problem with haphazard cutting down of cost is you are not able to you run the risk of cutting cost that actually is tied to your value proposition. What do I mean? It means that basically, if, for example, you're in the business of of manufacturing, maybe clothes. If, for example, you sack your employees, who are the people who actually help you to make clothes. What does that mean? It means that you curtail your ability to be able to generate revenue. So what we are, as part of cost of risk management, is what we are trying to advocate is for you to rationally cut your cost, so that you start with costs that are least related to your revenue generation capability. And you can use this table as an example. So as a consultancy firm, what we did is we listed all the costs that are related to our business, and we try to evaluate this cost based on the ability to generate revenue. So for instance, because our biggest cost and our value proposition comes from our employees, it means that we absolutely cannot cut cost of salary. So that becomes number one. Yeah, so that becomes number one, and it means that I will not, even as we go through the pandemic, I would rather cut the cost of sundry, electricity, rent, etc. But the last cost I would have to cut is employees, because that is what brings money to our business. So the question you should ask yourself is, you need to draw the list and ask yourself, based on this cost, which cost least contributes towards revenue generation, and start cutting cost from there moving forward. So of course you can use this template as for your cost cutting measures. So the last area under risk is the risk of customers running away, for lack of a better word, or reduced revenue because of customers coming back. And again, you need to start using data and start asking yourself questions around the same. Why is it that customers are going? And if they are going, are they still purchasing the same products? If not, then what alternative are they using? So if with this information, you can be able to make better decisions in terms of how to engage with customers. For example, if customers, because of issues around restriction of movement, some customers have moved towards purchasing the same products online. So the question you should be asking yourself, have you moved online to be able to reach the same customers? Yeah, so sometimes maybe customers are afraid to come to your shop because they are not very sure if you're in compliance with the Ministry of Health guidelines or the WHO guidelines in terms of making sure that the virus cannot spread within your shop. So the question again is, have you audited all customer touch points within your business, and have you put in place measures to ensure that the coronavirus will not be spread within your business premises? And have you communicated that to your customers? So we also have a tool around the same, what we are calling the Startup COVID-19 Pandemic Management Toolkit, that takes you through all the different facets in terms of risk management, cost management, customer challenge management. So you can be able to use the tool to just simulate different scenarios for your business and see how it works for you. So I would encourage you to go look at that tool. So the second and last area that I said we'll go through is around business consolidation. So business consolidation basically means that my business is struggling. Chances are I might shut down. So what options do I have? So business consolidation basically means is one or two businesses coming together and working together by putting both our resources in one pot and see how can we be able to ride the pandemic. So the first area around business consolidation is merging. So basically a merger is 1 or 2 or 3 businesses coming and working and putting all their resources in one pot and deciding to work together. So either you can do this by folding all the businesses and registering one entity, and again, because now with this larger business, it means that you can be able to access a bigger market. You can be able to combine your working capital, especially if you're in wholesale and retail. You can be able to go to your supplier with much more money, and you can be able to negotiate better discounts. You can be able to combine your assets and go to a bank and get a loan based on your combined collateral. And basically, you can be able to, even if it means investing in, in new technology, you can be able to share the risk among the various people who've come to set up that business. So that is an option in terms of, a way of, managing the virus, or even any other pandemic that is there. So we've seen, for example, we saw NIC and CBA Bank merging. So that's a very good example of a merger where 2 banks are coming to form one bigger entity, and they can be able to capture a bigger market. They can be able to share their overheads together, which means more profits for them. So the second area for in terms of consolidation is ecosystem building. So for those entities, or for those entrepreneurs who feel that merging is a hard pill to swallow, so building an ecosystem is something that is an option that they can be able to explore. And we've seen examples, or we have very good examples of this, especially from our Kenyans of Indian extraction, who basically run shops within any given town. If you go to Eldoret, if you go to Kisumu, if you go to Mombasa, you'll always find our friends of Indian extraction working as a unit. So if you go to a market where they are, you would find that shop A, shop B, shop C sell complementary products, so that they are not competing with each other. We have examples. A good example, maybe, for example, would be people who are who run pharmaceutical or pharmacies within a given town. It could be in Turkana. So instead of them compete, they can continue competing with each other, but they can come and work as an ecosystem by saying, look, we get our supplies from the same manufacturer. Why can't we go to the manufacturers as one entity, but as we are going to sell, we can sell ours as separate entities? So basically, this means that they are working close together to be able to get better discounts in terms of quantity discounts from a manufacturer of drugs, and coming and selling the same drugs to their different customers. The beauty about that is, if they were to go individually, one, they lack capital. Two is they cannot be able to purchase enough to be able to enjoy discounts. So working together in terms of a loose network is also an option. And this can work very well because already a lot of SMEs work within different markets, within different clusters. For example, we have in Nairobi the Uhuru Textile Market. We have the Kariakor Leather Market, where different traders are involved in manufacturing of textile or manufacturing of leather products. So what we are saying is, can you be able to work together as a cluster to be able to capture market as one, and also go to your suppliers and be able to get good supply discounts? I hope it makes sense. We also have a toolkit around the same. So how to actually build an ecosystem for your SMEs. So I think that's that in terms of the presentation. I hope it was clear. I hope I made it as simple as possible, and I hope it made sense. Maybe I can just open it up for questions. Asante.
Maybe I can start with thank you so much, Victor. I mean, I always look forward to your sessions and your write-ups. This is awesome. How you have managed to give us such information. But one of the things maybe I've seen because we train a lot of micro and small. The issue of capital on startup is a big issue for most of them. Secondly, another issue is, of course, how they actually have, make systems in their businesses. Thirdly, also language, because we really having a lot of also the micro not understanding English as much. So to even go through, to take them through the, the incubation process becomes hard. So one of the things we're doing also is translating our business process for incubation in Swahili. So how do you work out such challenges, especially for the micro and small? Yeah.
Thank you very much for that question. In terms of finance, I think access to finance is a very broad issue that I think needs all stakeholders to work together to be able to have a systemic way of SMEs accessing finance. For example, part of the challenges that I have with the stimulus package that government put out is that they were saying that they've reduced the cash reserve ratio for banks to around 4.4%, which meant that there was a release of around 35 billion towards lending towards SMEs. So the challenge I have with that is, in Kenya, 79% of SMEs are informal. So it means that they cannot be able to access, that kind of financing. So I think then probably we need to ask to take a step back and ask ourselves, where are our SMEs? How are they functioning? How are they behaving? And how can we be able to, alleviate the challenges? And what I like about the pandemic is it has forced a lot of organizations to look for alternatives. And we've seen, I think, Mastercard partner with either KNCCI or KEPSA, I'm not very sure, towards creating a fund that they can be able to lend MSMEs directly, so that we don't have to have the question of collateral being asked. We've seen also the credit guarantee scheme coming in, and I think if implemented well, it can be a game changer, because it basically lowers the risk profile of a lot of SMEs. Again, we've seen the Capital Market Authority. I talked to their policy director the other day. They are also exploring setting up a guarantee scheme within CMA to again reduce the risk profile of SMEs and enable them to access finance. So I think it's a complex challenge, but I think as we nip it pole, we can be able to get a solution around the same. We've seen efforts with I think KCB Equity Bank has received money from Africa Development Bank, etc. And the challenge that I always see sometimes it's not a question of even the question of the lack of money. It's a question of even awareness. Because the question is, I would ask is, are you even aware that KCB is working with Mastercard? Are you aware that KEPSA and KNCCI are working with Mastercard to be able to give funding to SMEs? So I think that's where I see the challenge. In terms of working with the SMEs in Kenya and Africa in general, of course that's a huge challenge, because if you look at the way people start business, if you see even the culture around business, it's not that I go to business because I want to, it's because sometimes I don't have an option. So we have people who are retrenched, and they because they don't have an option, they start a business just like that. They don't take stock, they don't do their research. So it's just a thing that I do because I don't have an option. And sooner do this change this culture, then we would start seeing a lot of SMEs doing serious stuff. So that's number one. Number two is I have worked previously. We just finished a collaboration with Hand in Hand East Africa, as well as we work with Somo and Ongoza. All of them work with SMEs within either rural or peri-urban. So the approach that we've taken, because we help them develop their curriculum, especially Hand in Hand, what we noticed is, can we be able to dissent? One is to make not to approach them in your traditional way of maybe, for example, running an accelerator. For example, the accelerator that we developed for them for peri-urban micro businesses is longer, is much longer, because your traditional accelerator program runs between 3 to 4 months. So the accelerator program that we designed is much longer, running towards over a year, and trying to ensure that it is as simple as possible. And possibly even the trainers that we get and even the mentors that we get are not your Victors and are not your Pauline, etc. They are people that we recruit within the county, within the locality of the entrepreneur. Because the moment you introduce an expert such as Victor, there is already a psychological barrier. But if you're able to get a mentor who is within their locality, who speaks their language. Sometimes, for example, in Kasarani, we had a trainer who was speaking Kikuyu. If you go to Kajiado, the trainer speaks Masai. So it means that they're able to resonate better with the people that they actually see on a day-to-day. But what happens is, on the background, we're able to develop the program in a manner that they can be able to resonate with. And we've seen massive success using that approach. And I think that probably is the lesson that I picked from engaging with micro business at that level. Maybe just a question that someone had asked me prior to going to this session was, why is it that there is a lot of interventions that are taking place in terms of supporting SMEs, but we are still not seeing results? So one of the proposals that we've put out there is for Kenya to have a national SME intervention report card, where probably someone, either Kenya National Bureau of Statistics or a coalition of entrepreneur ESOs, entrepreneurship support organizations, come together and collectively measure the impact that they are having in terms of engagement with SMEs. Because of course there are people who are taking advantage of the SME sector to have their own, to drive their own agenda and to be able to raise funds for their own initiatives. So I think it's especially I think I'm directing this to Wangeshi. We are very open to having a conversation around the same, where we be able to have a national way of measuring the impact of the work that is taking place within the country in terms of supporting SMEs.
So any closing remarks from Victor? Victor, this is your opportunity.
Thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you very much for everyone who participated. I hope the session was helpful. Let's continue engaging. Let's not just do things and stop. Let's continue having the conversation, either on social media or on whatever platform. At the end of the day, SMEs are your mothers and your sisters, and your fathers and your brothers. So let's make change. Asante Nisan, and God bless.
Thank you, Victor. So I would like to call it a day at this point, and also to deeply thank you for your presence, for the detailed presentation that we have done today. We are so much looking forward to engage with you, not only for this particular session, but in future sessions to come. So let this not be the last day for us to have this session. We've seen how knowledgeable you are in this particular context, so we are looking forward to also work with you in future. And for the IIA staff members, thank you for your presence today. We do much appreciate. I'm wishing you a good day.